All right, so we're going to be ranking the top 15 units in this game. Now, here's their criteria. I want you guys to pay attention so that if you guys do say something about this list, it's with this in mind. And if you don't agree with my ranking, my criteria ranking, then just tell me what I should change, okay? Because let's say you don't agree with one of my placements, but that placement is specifically because of one of these criteria. Well, then aren't you just wrong, right? Because you might have your own criteria yourself and you might rank someone higher, but with the criteria I'm suggesting, it might be exactly right, more subjectively, obviously, but still. So let me know if you don't agree with this criteria, why and what should I change, okay? So number one, it is only about tower. I don't give a fuck about the rest of the game. Because, for example, Mahito is great in tower, but won't be good outside of the tower, right? That's basically it. Now, if one DPS outdoes their color role better than them, right? So let's say yellow Gojo or Zonji, right? Yellow Gojo better than Zonji. Well, then that would mean that the one that's worse, quote unquote, is valued and ranked lower. I talked about this extensively in the fan Discord, and people seemed fine with this, right? If one color DPS is better than the other, the one that's worse will be valued and ranked lower, basically it. Now, supports being universal for every color is valued higher. For example, green Geto puts 2 debuffs for green, but when he's on any other color type disadvantage, it's 1 debuff, right? Now, DPS also being universal, being able to be used on more than one color is actually becoming a thing. There's like, what, 4 or 3 DPSs that this could happen? I think 4. And this does give them the slight edge in the rankings, but it's not going to be something that determines like, oh my god, okay, Mahito works everywhere, he's number 1. No, that's not how it works. Pick rate does play a part in it. What I've seen, okay, I'm up to floor 53, but I was hard locked. I was hard locked floor 53 because I couldn't level any of my debuffers up. I also didn't have any. So I literally could not complete that floor with what I had unless I took maybe 5 hours to complete it. So yes, I mean, I've seen a lot of the rankings. I've seen a lot of people talk about it, but I was literally hard locked because I had no good debuffers. But now I got Megumi. I didn't have Megumi. I got Geto. I didn't have Geto. I got Yaga. Didn't have Yaga. And I got Gakuganji. Didn't have Gakuganji. And I also got Hanami. I did not have Hanami. So you could see how I was hard locked. I couldn't even do the stall strat with Mahito. Now, team comps will be considered. Okay, so this is something that you kind of have to watch the video for. Because, for example, like this might not apply to Geto because of how he works on the team. And for example, a lot of units will be considered with Domain Gojo because he's basically the only must-need unit on your account, if I'm being real, okay? And it's going to maybe value certain units lower, certain units way higher, right? So that's what I want to consider. Let me know if you disagree with this one. And then, hey, for the next one, maybe in a month from now, when we get Shibuya Arc, I'm going to change it. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, next up, before we really start, let me know your thoughts down below on this tier list, okay? I'm going to have an actual tier list later, which is going to be much more simple. And, you know, this is just for fun, completely for fun. I think it's pretty fun to have this. And listen, if you disagree by 1 or 2 placements, even 3, who gives a fuck, right? These are subjective lists, right? We all have different experiences, and I think that's completely fine. But this is off of the criteria I showed, so let's get into it. Number 1, Domain Gojo, cleared number 1. Why he works so well is because he just does everything. He literally does everything. Damage increase, damage decrease also with his AoE, right? Super good early on. But then he just 300% damage increase just like that, right? This is the best part in my opinion. Being able to not make the enemies... my bad. Wrong part. Where is it? This is so good. They can't use their ult for minimum 4 turns. Minimum. But then, the ult skill count goes down. So technically that goes up to 5 turns almost. Very good, right? And the infinite void status also just makes it better because that means there's 4 turns where they might not attack. I mean, it's just too good. We don't even need to talk about Gojo. I've already made so many videos glazing him, done so many showcases, there's no point. Now, next up, Sukuna is number 2. A clear number 2. If I was to be real, it would be Domain Gojo, Gap, Sukuna, bigger Gap the rest of the game. Now, you have to understand why, okay? And that's because he's able to do type disadvantage damage, right? He literally could clear almost every floor type disadvantage. And one of the main reasons is because he heals a shit ton, right? And it's very good considering his stats are rather high, okay? But more than that, his damage type advantage is just some of the highest you've seen over 3 turns. his 3-turn damage is higher than anyone else's 3-turn damage, okay? And why I say 3 turns is because you use this ult, it does 2400 including the bleed. And then you also get these dots, which is an extra 200 per turn, right? So in total, that's an extra 600%. Like, in 3 turns with this ult, you're doing essentially 2300 on the ult. But then the skill 3, because you have to use this once, but then the turn after you use this, guess what? That's an extra 1200% damage here. So his damage is just too high type advantage, but then he could be used type disadvantage. And then even more than that, he has taijutsu damage that he's able to do that works well with the dots. So he just does everything, cannot be stunned. He basically has, it's like attack immunity in a way because it's very hard to kill him. It's happened almost once, but that was type disadvantage, y'all. So a bit different, right? But I didn't even die that time and I did win. So you have to consider that. But then he's not going to get stunned. So has the benefits of attack immunity in a way by also not having the disadvantages of attack immunity. What is the disadvantage of attack immunity? He cannot charge alt gauge when he gets hit, which is a huge plus for Sukuna because he gets hit, oh, he heals up afterwards, and then he still gets the alt gauge. That's what I want to say. I've said this so many times in my Gojo videos. One of the problems with Gojo having attack immunity is that it stops him from charging alt quicker, which it's such a funny thing. Obviously, it's so good having attack immunity. I'm just here to talk about it as a whole, right? We're talking about the good, the bad, and that's what I want to say. Sukuna getting that is good in some cases, but it doesn't really matter, right? So we already know Sukuna's number 2. He could go crazy if you really want him to. The dot damage is too high, and then he just does a single target ultimate afterwards. Like, come on. Now, this is where... Actually, it's after this one. This is a clear number 3 in my opinion. No one argued for this when I was discussing it. Where the fuck is he, bro? Okay, here he is. So Gojo is number 3. And why is that? There's a couple of reasons. Well, first of all, he doesn't leave battle. Second of all, he has some of the highest, actually, it's probably higher than Hollow Purple. Because Hollow Purple could stack this once, right? With a higher ult damage. But Gojo could stack this 3 times. Sorry, yeah, 3 times. Then he gets the crit. So I feel like HI probably has higher damage than Hollow Purple, right? I'd like to say so. But why does it matter? Well, it doesn't actually really, because Hollow Purple hidden inventory doesn't leave battle. He doesn't need to. And then also, he just has attack immunity for half the game. And then he has decently high HP to kind of go with that. But more than that, he's also literally one of the options, type disadvantage, which is insane. I actually can't believe it, but he's genuinely someone you could use type disadvantage. And no, I was not kidding, okay? Look, blue type advantage, Gojo cleared it with Mahito. So yes, it is possible, okay? I do want to make sure it's not, I don't know if there's other floors with that. I feel like there was. Could I be wrong? Maybe. But I feel like I saw more. Yes, right here, floor 45. There again. So yes, he can work type disadvantage, but more than that, he has a taunt. Okay, he has a taunt. And considering he has attack immunity, that taunt becomes very, very good. Very, very good. So that's why I feel he is number 3 clear, okay? Because his ult damage is just so strong, right? Because it's 1500, but then remember, he gets 90% crit rate, 240% damage increase, but then also when he crits, he increases his own damage, and then by the way, it's 5 hits, which means you have a pretty good chance to crit, which means if you do crit, not only do you get the crit, obviously, but then you also get the crit damage increases. So in a lot of cases, Domain Gojo can, I'm mixing up the Gojos. HI Gojo could do more than Hollow Purple, which, that's the thing. I do want to make sure that you guys understand why HI, in my book, is number 3 clear, right? But this is where it starts to get a bit murky. And I will say right away, I believe Toji and Yuta can be interchangeable on this list. It really is who do you value more. But then when you value one higher, remember, valuing one higher also makes the worst quote-unquote one valued and ranked lower, okay? That is how I look at it, all right? And why is Toji the one I value higher than Yuta? I will explain my points, all right? And then you could tell me down below why I'm stupid, wrong, and should off myself, okay? So, Toji is going to do relatively similar damage to Yuta. You could argue that Toji, in a lot of cases, might do more, right? Now, I don't usually count this part. Why? Because I have not gotten lucky with the Black Flash, all right? I haven't. I'm just going to say it like it is. I haven't, right? So it is what it is for that, right? But you have to consider this, right? To get the extra 35%. So this for sure. But then you also remember Toji's alt damage as at 1500, but then he has a built-in 16, but he has a built-in 50%. So it starts off at 2250, but then he also has a chance for an extra 25%. So they're looking exactly equal almost to a T, right? That's what I want to make sure is known for that, right? But what I rank higher, first of all, a couple things. The break damage, I love. I absolutely love. But the biggest thing is the removable buffs. If you are able to remove the buffs, and there are some stages you can, this also just makes him good for certain floors where he could be used as a support. That's one big reason. For example, I actually have a perfect example for you, right? Just to give it like an example. 52. 52, you could, oh wait, can you? Yeah, right here. You could literally do it. Oh, can you though? I might be spouting bullshit. I'm going to leave that point aside because I don't know if it's removable or you could just lower the turns. So we're going to leave that aside, but I believe you can remove it. Tell me if we can, but I don't think you can. But anyway, in stages that you can, Toji gets that value for sure, especially because his ult just puts it like remove on everyone. Very, very good. Okay. You could let me know if you don't like the remove buffs. I like it. Now, next thing. Listen, people love his heal, and I love it too, okay? But what I value is him being able to survive over Yuta, okay? There's so many times where Yuta's died. But Toji not only has some damage reduction, which might not seem like much, but when you compare this alongside Domain Gojo's damage lower, this becomes much higher, right? But then, he also has a 20% chance to evade single target attacks, where Yuta, bro, I don't know about y'all, but my luck might just be dog shit. But I've had way more times where Toji dodges instead of Yuta while countering, right? But then Toji also gets a small heal every turn, which does start to add up. So I feel like Toji survives more and then could use his ult more because, well, lower ult gauge, and then he doesn't have to stop his ult, right? Because look, after, 4 turns after, he can't use his ult? Yeah. So it's like, over, like, DPS over time, Toji's doing more. Gotta consider that. Higher ult gauge, well, that doesn't matter because of the heal, but still, you could, listen, they're interchangeable in my book, but I, in my own opinion, value Toji higher. That's it. Now, Geto's number 5. He moved down a bit because I valued him a bit too high. I had him at number 9. I made a previous version of this, but now he's number 5. Why is that? Let's talk about it. It's because his skill 2 actually buffs Sukuna's damage, right? It buffs Sukuna's damage. But more than that, if you're fighting a taijutsu enemy, they're doing pebbles to you, right? Because it's a 50% damage increase at max, which you could get it decently, relatively often, especially if you have Kaido, which Kaido for this team is actually very useful. I'm not going to lie. So you have this, right? 50% increase that you could stack 3 times max, right? But obviously it's 2 times always. But like the dot actually is influenced by this, right? So that's something very important. But he just works as universal DPS, being able to do damage increase if you need for anyone. Because like either you have the Jujutsu increase for any Jujutsu units, like Sukuna, Tinjo, Yuta, Hollow Purple. Did I say Yuta? I think I said Yuta. I feel like I'm missing someone maybe. I don't think I am though. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. A bunch of units, right? But if it's taijutsu, or someone like Nanami, you go for the damage increase, which is 30%, right? And it's AoE, pretty good. But what I also value is the fact that listen, we could say that Sukuna and Geto, right, are both DPSs, and you could value Geto lower because he'd only be counted as a support. But Geto is a support, and that makes it so that on blue, him being able to DPS is just a plus, right? It's just overkill, essentially. Because you're supporting, buffing Sukuna's damage, but then still being able to DPS. So, to me, that's valued extremely high to where he's only increasing the team's damage more than just what he's supporting, which is why I'm ranking Geto number 5. All right? That's basically it. I feel very comfortable with this. If you want to put Geto a bit lower, I understand. But Geto, ult damage is higher than Blue Gojo in most cases, is going to support Sukuna and himself, and is also going to make it harder for everyone to die. Isn't that just good, right? Especially with Sukuna, like, because Sukuna heals, isn't it just impossible if it's a taijutsu enemy for anyone to die? I really feel like it is. I feel like it's almost impossible. So that's my opinion. Now, Hollow Purple 6. His damage is very high, very good nuke damage. You could clear pretty much every floor of green with Hollow Purple if you get enough luck, but it's just hard because unless you have a max dupe, a lot of the stages become a bit hard. Like his nuke damage is good. It's just, if you look at it, a lot of the top DPS are top DPS either because their damage is just incredible, like Tinjo, well, more incredible than a Hollow Purple, or you're able to be run with Domain Gojo. And Hollow Purple cannot, right? But what he does have is the alt gauge lower. So what you could do with him is alt gauge lower. He leaves and then another DPS comes in, which is insanely valuable, right? I mean, it's really good, but he's not a necessity, right? Where you could see Domain Gojo is someone that most teams are going to run now. Okay, you could beat it without Domain Gojo, but that isn't fair because you could also beat it without Sukuna, without Tinjo, without Toji, right? It's just, these are like the units ranked. I'm like, sure, Domain Gojo is just too good, right? And it's like, his pick rate is just so high now, especially if you have him, that, you know, I definitely think that it's a bit of an irrelevant point to be like, yeah, well, you need Hollow Purple for a lot of stages. The reason why you need Hollow Purple is because the other DPS are maybe less better for some of the more difficult stages, right? So Hollow Purple is still number 6. Some people were arguing he was higher. I personally disagree. If you want to put him higher, 1 or 2 slot differences, does it really matter in the big grand scheme of things? No, it doesn't. Okay. Now, next up, Mahito. Mahito is here. And could you put him higher? Sure. I would almost argue for number 6 or even number 5. I could. You could honestly argue for that. But Mahito is number 7, right? Now, why is that? Because Hollow Purple is still great to clear most of the floors, and Mahito could be a kind of cleaner upper, right? So, Mahito, like, man. You could even put him higher if you want. You could. These are interchangeable in my eyes. It's just that, like, well, not interchangeable because they have like kind of different uses. But Mahito is a great break support because when you use his ult, that 15% is going to allow you to get breaks on most of the stages, which is amazing. But I don't think he's not a necessity for any unit or any team or any stage, right? But pick rate is very high. But the only reason pick rate is high is because you might be missing a unit or two. That's the main reason. Because a lot of the times I see it and it's like, okay, you'll clear with Mahito because you don't have X or Y unit, right? But because he's a universal, it's going to give him a slight edge. But like I say, it's not going to completely rank them higher. If it would have, he could have been fucking number 4 in this tier list, right? But still, very good unit. It's just he's not a necessity. But he's very good as like a second option for pretty much every single floor. If you want to argue him number 6 or number 5, I'm fine with that, right? That's up to you. That is up to you. If we want to put him higher in the future, we'll discuss that in the future. I definitely think Mahito is deserving of minimum number 7. You could put him number 6 or 5 in my opinion. I don't see number 4 because Toji breaks very well, which Mahito, in all fairness, does also. But he also has the remove buffs, right? Which is very important to consider. Now, next up. Yuta. So Yuta's so low because, like I said, when one DPS is ranked higher, one DPS is ranked lower. Are they interchangeable? Sure. I'm fine with Toji being number 8 and Yuta being number 4 in your eyes. But in my eyes, this is how it goes. Yuta's heals are fucking incredible. His ult damage is very good. But he can die quite a lot if you don't get lucky with the counters. That's something that we have to consider and have to acknowledge. Okay? But is he good? Hell yeah. Hell the fuck yeah. Amazing unit. And that's why he's number 8. Like, y'all are acting because he's number 8. It's like, oh my god, it's the end of the world. You're saying Yuta sucks? And it's like he's number 8, bro. Like, that doesn't make sense, right? So, yeah, Yuta is number 8, and that's my placement for him. I don't really want to get too much into it because I feel like it makes to me, it makes sense. My thing is that his counter chance feels so low that his survivability kind of plummets down when you compare it to the top units. Sukuna has heal, Tinjo has immunity, Toji has built-in damage reduction, heal, and also dodge chance, which is definitely higher than Yuta. HP just comes in and out. Mahito is a guaranteed dodge, so you know that's kind of my vision for Yuta being lower, right? Now next up, Domain Megumi. Why do I put Domain Megumi lower? Because Geto just has such high value with Sukuna that yes, Domain Megumi is also gonna work, but he's not gonna work perfectly on every single team like Geto can very easily. Geto's a free unit, which is another reason why you don't see Zonji yet, because Domain Megumi does take a bit of work to build up, but it's not super hard. But still, it's something to consider, right? Outside of his ult, he's basically a worthless support, right? So it's like if he's working half the time, the other half he's kind of mid, which is why he's kind of on the lower end. But Domain Megumi is going to be absolutely amazing for the floors he's good at, and absolutely amazing for the teams he's good at, especially with Sukuna. People are saying Geto ranks higher with Sukuna, but, right? If you're using Pride on Sukuna, keep this in mind. If you're using Pride, Domain Megumi, skill 1, skill 1, skill 1, you ult with Sukuna by the time you're finished those skill 1s in some of the cases. I did it in my videos, and that's how it worked out. So Domain Megumi works kind of perfect in my eyes. Great unit, deserving of number 9, lowers the enemy's damage, increases their damage taken a shit ton, also won't die in those turns. Definitely one of the better supports. Now, number 10 is Momo. Momo, y'all know I absolutely love Momo. She is very, very good because her break damage, bro, the value you get out of her break damage on any team is just insane, especially with units that already have break damage like Toji. It just skyrockets. All right. But the main thing is her alt gauge lower on the alt is just so astronomically valuable. You don't even understand if you don't have Momo. It's just a completely different game, in my opinion. I just love it so much, especially when you combine it with Domain Gojo. That's literally 2 alt gauge lower, but then Domain Gojo stopping the alt gauge increasing for 4 turns, which means technically that's 6 turns where they won't be ulting. So yeah, that's kind of why I value Momo that high. Those ults sometimes could be killers, which is why this is great alongside the stun, which has saved me so many times. But it really is because she's so easy to use while giving such high damage alongside the break damage. And then she dodges, so she has good survivability at the same time. Higher survivability over other supports like Yaga, for example, which is coming up. Red Yaga is number 11. And why is he number 11? Why is he over other supports? Let's talk about it. Okay. So Red, I ran to the, yeah, I have to go here now. I'm going to have to pull up these two. So Red Yaga, why he's so good is because he gives such a high amount and it stacks for 4 turns, which means you could stack these 4 times, 180% increase. If you get lucky, GG, right? But alongside that, if ever you run out of CE, what puts him above the rest is his ult, unlike other supports, is actually fucking viable to increase your damage and decrease their damage, which, especially because he's red on a mono red, bro, you are not taking damage with Toji. Because Domain Gojo damage lower, then Yaga ult lower, then Toji has damage reduction. Like, it's actually just an insane team comp to kind of think of, right? So I really do like Yaga here, especially over Nanami, because Nanami's ult just isn't as good, and he also gives less actual percentages. Like, he gives like what, 35% damage? Yaga gives 49, or was it 45? It's like 10% more per buff. So in total, it's like, yeah, it's literally 10% more per buff, which means, like, look at that, 10% more. Which means that in total, it's a 40% difference, which is huge. It's huge. Now, next up, I have Zonji rather low, but we'll explain why. And it comes down to the same thing as Degumi a bit, being a bit lower. And that's because it can be hard to build them up. One of the main things is you do got to get a lot of black flashes to make them work unless you use Kaido. But the thing is, if you use Kaido, your damage plummets downwards because Kaido doesn't increase Yuji's damage, is basically how I look at it. Sure, you get the black flash here, but afterwards, you have increased black flash rate. But then if you don't black flash, you're not getting this extra CE, and you do kind of need this extra CE to really be able to kind of cook over time, right? Having this and this makes it very good, but we just got to make sure it's understood that we do need a good amount of CE, and we do got to get the black flashes for him to really cook. I love him. His damage is probably one of the highest in the game, besides maybe Sukuna and Tinjo. But there is a certain amount of luck in it. And also, like I said, Tinjo is ranked way higher. And why is that? He has a taunt, harder to kill, and also AoE damage that's really high, where Yuji doesn't have that kind of team support like the taunt, right? And then it's also hard to build him up. And early game, he's really kind of pathetic, where early game, what is Gojo doing? He's taunting the enemies, right? So that's why I value him way higher than Zonji, right? And then you look at all the ones above. Yuta heals, Gojo lowers alt gauge, Toji removes buffs, right? So it's like, that's why I have Zonji where I have him. This is the one I know the biggest that people will disagree with, but I really don't think, from what I saw, people that I was discussing with are not arguing that much for Zonji's ranking, while understanding that he's a very good unit, but you could be one of the highest damaging units and still be number 12 in my eyes. And you know why? Because it's a snowball effect. But if there's not enough snow in some cases, then it's just not going to get to that point where the snowball is big enough to really cook. That's basically all I'm arguing. I would love to hear your opinions, right? Maybe I could be changed. Maybe. But we have too many good DPSs now to really say that, yeah, I mean, Sukuna, but like, there's too many DPSs to argue like, oh, he could be used with Domain Gojo, because so can a bunch of others now, right? So that's basically all I'm saying. Now, next up is Inumaki. Amazing unit, right? Why that is because he increases alt gauge, which could sometimes, especially with Domain Gojo now, he got stonks with Domain Gojo. Absolute stonks. Okay, because getting this alt gauge quicker and damage reduction is great. He works on so many different team comps, stall team comp with Hanami, or even just Domain Gojo. It's great. You have the stun chance if you really need, but it's really this and these two that really help him. Love this unit. Really good. I don't even need to talk about him that much. He's just good, right? Now, next up, Kaido. I rank Kaido so high because he's one of the things, like, if you're arguing like, oh, but you can use Kaido for Zonji or whatever, like, yeah, I mean, that's one reason. But another reason is because he helps the supports keep their cursed energy up. Some bosses are going to lower your CE, and Kaido just, like, kind of says, nope, fuck you. And then, obviously, he just ult, and then he gives 120% Jujutsu, and then that's just a free, because, like, for example, this is something that I actually think is pretty important, and it's something to consider. For example, with Sukuna, for example, Yaga or Kaido. Well, let's see. Kaido gives less damage increase in general, but if you combo the Kaido ult with Sukuna, you're getting extra damage because of the combo altogether. Right? That's something to kind of consider in the damage, while also just being able to increase the CE, making sure the other supports keep their supporting up. That's basically all I'm saying. Now, number 15. Numero 15. All right. Final unit is Yaga. This slot could really be a bunch of units. You could argue Green Geto. You could argue Hanami. You cannot argue Blue Gojo. That guy's a fraud now. Who else could you argue? I'm trying to see. You could maybe argue Kaido. It's just he's very reliant on the yellow typing, where Yaga a bit less. You could maybe argue Mai, but I don't really think so. She dies pretty quickly. Who else? You could... I don't think there's really many others. Maybe Gaku Ganji. I wouldn't really say so. And that's kind of it. I don't think... maybe some of those units. Anyway, I'm putting Yaga. The reason is he has this darkness ability. So he, no matter what, is giving everyone 46% and then still debuffing for a decent amount alongside that. But the main thing is that he's able to inflict the darkness status, which means they just won't go for their attack, right? So because of this, it's basically making you a lot safer in what you're doing while still getting damage increases. The only problem really is his ult, right? Because his ult is kind of pathetic if you're not on yellow. But then if you are on yellow, this guy becomes absolute god. And I'd rank him above Red Yaga on that. But because he's decent off yellow, but amazing on yellow, I think number 15 is a fair placement. You could put Hanami there. I'd low-key the highest... The other person I'd swap is Hanami. That's basically it, right? But yeah, this is my top 15. This is my top 15. I just want to make sure I didn't change anything. Nope, we seemingly are good with my tier list I have on the side. So yeah, these are my rankings. I do want to kind of go over a couple points. Like I said, Toji and Yuta are interchangeable. And another point is that Zonji is 12 only because Tinjo is better. And all the DPS above them have some kind of utility that Zonji doesn't have in my eyes. Sir, Zonji does the damage, but so do a lot of the other top units, especially with Sukuna. That damage that Zonji does isn't as crazy, but having that damage, being able to run Domain Gojo with Zonji is something to consider. And definitely, he is great. But Yuta has the heals, Mahito has the break, and just being able to be used on every color, which Zonji can't. Hollow Purple also has the alt gauge lower. Toji has the buff removal. And also pretty good damage reduction and dodges. Very nice to have. Tinjo has the taunt. And Sukuna is just fucking damaging too much. Literally too much. And also doing type disadvantage damage. This is my tier list. My ranking. I'm going to have an actual tier list later. Let me know your opinion on it. Let me know what you disagree with, what you agree with. It took a lot of thinking. It took a lot of thinking. But people that I talked with in the fan Discord seem to be happy with it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. This is the criteria. Make sure you understand it before critiquing me.